Welcome to the Active Bariatric Nutrition Podcast. I'm your host, Kim Tirapelli, bariatric sports dietitian. Today, I'm so excited to have on bariatric athlete and bodybuilder Rob Spinella, also known as Rob Motivation on Instagram. Rob had vertical sleeve gastrectomy in December of 2018. He has lost a total of 115 pounds and has increased his muscle mass significantly over time. He is the founder and head coach at Next Level Fit, where he helps his clients reach the next level in fitness and nutrition. Rob is a two-time bodybuilding competitor, having competed in both the transformation and men's physique divisions. His current goal is to continue to get stronger and show up for himself every day. Thanks so much for being here, Rob. I appreciate your time.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I was so glad to finally meet you at Bariatric Retreat. I was like, yes, we finally get to meet. I followed you for a long time, so I appreciate your time.
Of course. Yeah, it was great meeting you. That's why I love those events it's a pleasant surprise when you meet people and connect. And then I wish we had more time together. That was the only thing.
I know. I'm hoping we'll get to do some more events this coming year. Yeah, for
Absolutely.
Sure. Cool. Well, let's talk a little bit about just why you chose to have bariatric surgery and how it's changed your life.
Yeah. So, like everybody else, I kind of dieted for years and tried to lose weight, and I would lose the weight and gain the weight back. Never really had that sustainable diet long term. I took pills from China. I took the Alley from CVS and all of these I did injections in my stomach. That was probably 10 years ago.
Sure.
All to say, I just did things that just never really were sustainable for the long term. Bariatric surgery was always an option. When I was 16, 17 years old, I looked into getting the lap band. Mm-hmm. And at that point, it just didn't make sense. So I just kind of moved on from that. And then I continued to just try to lose weight, but I would always gain it back. And I would go to the gym, but eat more than I was burning. And it was one of those things where I was like, all right, you worked out for an hour. Now you can have whatever you want. And then wake up the next day and eat garbage. And it just was a repetitive cycle. And it just got to the point where I was 26 and I was getting off my dad's insurance, which was a good insurance. I was living out in California and I was like, let me just change my life. So I went to a doctor in LA and I had the surgery probably 4 months later. And now I'm a little over 5 years out. So
I love that.
Changed my life completely.
Yeah. And so were you happy that you had the surgery?
Yes, I was. I will say, I always wonder if I didn't have the surgery and I have the mindset that I have today, where I would have been, but I wouldn't have had the mindset unless I had the surgery.
Right.
Because the surgery changed my life, and starting from 1 month post-op, 2 months, 3 months, up to 6 months, and you're kind of learning how to re-eat again and then implementing those habits for the long term. And then getting into fitness and then getting into bodybuilding. And now it's kind of just changed my life. Every aspect of my life is completely different today because of the surgery. And nothing looks the way it used to look, and everything is unimaginably happening in a crazy way. So, but it's amazing.
Oh, I love to hear that. And you had plastic surgery also. Do you mind sharing, when did you have it? What did you have? Tell us a little bit about that part of your journey.
Yeah. So I did the 2 shows, and then after the second show, which was, so I had surgery August 1st of 2022. Okay. So I had abdominoplasty, so no muscle repair. They went from hip to hip. Mm-hmm. So they just took off the front flap of skin, layer of skin, whatever you want to call it. Tough recovery. And it was very difficult because I went from show day type of physique to then swollen, puffy, and all surgery. So that was also a very big mental challenge that I had to deal with over time, because you're watching your body go from I had a 6-pack going into an 8-pack at that time. And then I woke up with a swollen stomach. Yeah, I had no skin, but it was a mental challenge for sure. But I don't regret the decision. I think it looks great. The one thing I will say is I'm probably going to go back again to do the back area, just because now it wasn't a problem then, but now it's kind of sticks out a little bit, and it's something that I would want to change. Not in a rush to do it right now, but it's on my radar for sure.
Yeah. How long did it take to recover from that? Before you could go back and lift like you've been doing?
I want to say about 8 weeks.
Okay.
But I was only able to lift at like 40% and
Gotcha.
wasn't anything heavy, but like I was slowing down the movements, which helped. So like if I was doing like a bench press, like dumbbell bench press, and I was doing, I think maybe like 60 at the time, 70 at the time, I cut that in half. Or a little bit less. And I would just like slow the motion down and just kind of like feel it more, which has ultimately helped me lift today in turn. Because starting off, I was just like pulling the weights and pushing the weights and not really doing it properly or lifting the proper way. So slowing down that tempo has definitely helped me today in what I'm trying to now accomplish.
Sure. Yeah. No, I love to hear that because I know a lot of folks ask about, plastic surgery and how long does it take to heal? And I think everyone's different based on the type of surgery and how you heal. But it sounds like ultimately it's actually benefited you in the gym because it's helping you to, change the way that you're lifting, which is beneficial, of course.
Yeah. So definitely slowing down that tempo has helped for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's talk a little bit about the fitness journey. So before you had surgery, did you lift before, or was that something new that you picked up after bariatric surgery?
So lifting in the gym was something that I picked up probably 2 years post-op from bariatric surgery. So right before I was starting to compete, so before like the surgery, I was living in Brooklyn at the time. I went to this place called Badass Academy.
Okay.
It was great. It was like all functional fitness, super hard, like lifting sandbags and doing all of that. And they had cycling classes. That's kind of where I'd say like I'd go work out and then eat. So it wasn't really like a sustainable diet, but I was pretty consistent in the gym. Just never really seeing the results that I wanted. And then that kind of led into me going to, so then I had surgery, moved to LA, and I started doing like cycling classes because I enjoyed those. I started hiking because there's a lot of good hikes in LA. Right. But again, it was one of those things where like the nutrition just wasn't lining up. And then I had the surgery. So then after the surgery, it was one of those things where working out made me feel normal again. Because like going out to eat, you have to like watch how much you're eating. You have to watch what you're like, how it's cooked. Because like at first, my stomach was very sensitive. So I felt like abnormal at first. Like you couldn't drink and eat at the same time, and that was something that I had to readjust to. Now now this is like the new normal.
Sure.
But yeah, I started off with like doing yoga classes and Pilates classes and functional fitness training. Never didn't step foot into the gym until I moved back to New Jersey. But yeah, I started like just rebuilding my body, losing the weight, and just building that consistent habit of just showing up, and like that's what made me feel good and normal again. And then, like I said, I started competing, and my coach was like, "All right, so like now, let's get into the gym, start learning." And like on Trainerize, they have the videos, which was super helpful. Are you familiar with Trainerize?
Sure. I've heard of it, but yeah, I've never used it. But tell us about it. What is it?
So the guy is not the best at demonstration, or like the way that they're pulling the weights just is. And that's kind of how I was learning. And that's why everything looked super fast at times. And because he was doing it that way, so I was doing it that way.
Sure.
But it was good to learn, get in, and just make the first steps on actually like learning to lift. Right. And then it's just led me where I am today. Just continuing to like lift, and now like the splits have changed, and I hired a new coach now. So like we're working together at the gym that I work out at. So he's there, and it's been a game changer as well. Just because I can go up to him and be like, "John, like I need help with this. Like, is this right? Is the bench where it needs to be?" Like, and I'm still really like learning. Like, and that's the cool thing about fitness is like there's just so much to learn, and there's so much to know, and so many people think that like I'm an expert, and I'm not, but I've just been doing it consistently now for like 2.5 years. So the knowledge just continues to grow.
Yeah. I think that's what's so great about the fitness journey too. And first I want to just highlight, I love that you shared, kind of where you started, which was, you did some cycling, yoga, it wasn't like right out of the gate you started lifting. This was something that you build up to. And, because there's so many folks that get out of surgery right away, and, it's hard to, fuel for lifting or to see muscle gain when you're eating such a small amount. That's difficult. And it takes some time, I think, to build up to that, and starting where you're at with maybe some low impact movement, the cycling, yoga, all those things, but they all help. They're great. I mean, and yoga is so good for flexibility and mobility of the joints, which I'm sure helps you when you're doing your lifting.
Yeah. Even today, those are like tonight, I'm going to a yoga class. Like I still enjoy going to those classes and doing that type of working out because it's more mental now. Even the gym, like the goal isn't really to like put on this significant amount of muscle. Like I'm super proud of how far I've come. And like even being in the gym, sorry. Even being in the gym now, there's people who like will come up to me and they'll be like, "Are you natural? Like what's going on?" And I'm like, "Yes, like I've built this naturally." And like I don't walk around like with the natural thing, but like it's cool to have other people who think that I'm using something to build. I think is like it's a huge compliment.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's just a lot of the hard work that I put in and what I've dedicated to myself.
Yeah. And the consistency to it. Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about how things have changed with your lifting. So you're working with a coach, which I just want to highlight too, I think is great because we all need coaches. It's helpful, to have someone else there for accountability, for instruction. We're always learning. I think that's fantastic. What do your days look like now? How many days a week do you lift? Tell us a little bit about your training program.
Yeah. So as for right now, I'm doing 5 days of lifting and then 1 day of cardio.
Okay.
So it's 6 days. And then one of my training days has a 10-minute cardio at the end. He's kind of pulled it back. So we're refiguring things out because I was doing cardio every single day, 3 times, like 6 days a week. And it was just, I was overdoing it. Right. And he's like, all right, let's pull back. Let's kind of see where you're at today. And if we want to add more cardio, then we'll add more cardio. Like it's just based on what your goal is. And like everybody else, it's like, I struggle too, it's like, I even go up to him and I'm like, I'm feeling, and I'm going to say it, I feel fat today. Like I feel like I'm putting weight on. And he's like, well, I saw a picture of you on Instagram and like, I don't see that.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of like the benefit of having a coach as well is like having that like that person who's looking in, who's not in my brain. Cause like I could sit there and pick myself apart every single day. But it's a way different split. Like I was doing push, pull legs. That was before. So now we have like, it's like hamstrings, like back, and then it's like kind of split, a lot of supersets, a shoulder day, leg day, cardio day, a back day, and then an arm and a chest day. So, and it's all different movements and ways of doing the movements that I'm now like starting to learn, and the form and just different. It's completely different, but it's now completely changed the way that I lift. And it's like relearning those numbers of like what I'm able to lift, because when you're supersetting, you're not like lifting the same amount as what you were before. Right. So that's also a mental pullback of like, wow, like I was doing like, I'm not even using my numbers, but like 100 pounds on bench press, but now I can only do like 75 just because you're supersetting and exhausting the muscle even more. So
absolutely.
That's been like a mental challenge as well. But it's great.
I see that as sometimes positive. Yeah. To have a new, new program and, it challenges your body in new and different ways. It sounds like, are you training for another show or do you have any, what are your goals right now?
The goal is just to continue to like keep the habit, show up, stay consistent. As far as a show, I think about it. So I did 2 shows. I did Transformation. Transformation was like, and I'm sure we'll get into this. Transformation was amazing. Yeah. It was a great experience. Like a lot of emotions behind stage that people don't see or really never saw. And there was some of us back, like all of us back there were like crying with each other and hugging each other. Aww. And then I did Men's Physique, and Men's Physique was like, all right, like get your pump in, get online, go out, pose, stand on the side, go back. And it was just, it's a great sport. It's very cool, but like two different experiences for sure. I love the Transformation experience. As far as competing again, if I did compete, I probably would go into another class just to say like, or just to have that under my belt that like, okay, I did this, this, and this. Sure. But not on my radar as of right now. Yeah. But maybe in the future, maybe in a year or so. I don't know. It's kind of, it's something I've thought of. Yeah. It's something that I've considered, but a lot of, and I'm going to go back to the mental aspect of it. It's very difficult to come off of a show prep and such an unrealistic diet and then go back into normal life and go from like super shredded to like a normal body. And now you're
Right.
like, the thoughts of like, I look fat, I gained this weight. And like, it's just
Right.
very difficult. And it's a lot. And it's something that a lot of overweight people, and it's not just bariatric, it's people who have lost weight and
No.
have
Right.
gone down to that point, do these shows and then come out of it. And it's very, and honestly, even people who haven't lost, like haven't had that significant transformation, it's everyone. And
It's
that's the
very
cool thing
challenging.
about and that's the cool thing about the gym that I go to now is like, I'm considered like not out of shape because I'm very much in shape, but there's
Right.
so much like I'm in a room where there's a lot more people who are better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like listening to their struggles and like coming from like their skinny ways and like now they've transformed into like who they are today. So it's interesting to compare the stories and the situations and
Yeah.
just kind of learn more about other people and their struggles.
Yeah. And I've heard that quite a bit, that coming off of a show, it is difficult because it's not realistic to live that type of,
Mm-mm.
or, eat that way for significant periods of time. It's just, it's unrealistic. It's unmanageable. It's not healthy to do that for long periods of time because it can be quite restrictive. And, and then it can lead to, then you get back to just being normal, eating a normal way of eating for you. And then the body composition changes it can be, upsetting for some folks. It can be,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my gosh, now I've gone off the rails. It's like, no, you haven't gone off the rails. You went back to eating normal. Like that's not a way of eating for life, So it can be challenging. I know.
Mm-hmm. And that's part of the
Yeah.
reason why I'm hesitant on doing
Yeah.
another
I get
show.
that.
It's for just the
Yeah.
mental aspect of it and coming off of
Yeah.
that and coming back to because I'm still dealing with that. Even just like because I track food every day, and
Sure.
I was even telling my coach, and like I'll say it here, like I was picking cheese off the scale to get to
Yeah.
the 14 grams, and he's
Right.
like, "Do you think that like 14, 16, 12 is going to be that significant of a difference? Even 17 grams? Like, do you think that that's like
Yeah.
going to make or break the scale?" And I'm like, "No, but it's just a mental thing for me. It's like what I've learned on show prep and how like perfection is the standard when you're on show. So like that kind of translated into today. So I'm trying to
Right.
realize that like perfection is not the standard
No,
for
absolutely.
life."
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more there. And let's talk a little bit about going into the nutrition aspect. So first I wanted to start off with, I have seen in your posts that you're doing dry January. Can you tell us a little bit
Yes.
about that decision? Yeah. How you're
Yeah.
feeling? Give us the whole rundown.
Yeah. So um, I think it's so I don't know how to answer this, but I will say I don't struggle with alcohol.
Yeah.
I'm not the type of person who like drinks every day, but when I drink, like I'm drinking.
Sure.
Um, and it could go like a Friday into a Saturday, maybe a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like if we're cooking dinner.
Yeah.
Um, but like the holidays was like a bender, not gonna lie.
Sure. Yeah.
And mentally, this past like 2023 was just a lot of my own personal issues that I was going through, and drinking was very easy to turn to
Yeah.
help with the issues. But so this year, I basically said I was kind of like counting down the days until January 1st because I was like, I just want to like eliminate alcohol, and I know that
Yep.
come from a family of addiction,
Mm-hmm.
obesity, whatever like that is, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm also like an addicted personality, so I could go into like I used to smoke cigarettes,
Yeah.
the gym, healthy addiction, but like an
Right.
addiction, food,
Right.
alcohol. So like all of these things have kind of just led into where today. So I feel great. I think right now it's mentally like hurdling through what I've like blocked off, and I'm like
Yeah.
dealing with the issues and dealing with the things, and also relearning how to kind of live, like
Right.
because I'm not going out and getting drunk and going to these bars or going to these clubs, and
Yeah.
also not waking up hungover, which is actually
Yep.
very nice, and sleeping
Yeah.
well, and going to the
Yep.
gym and lifting better, and saving money. Like my
Yeah.
bank is like
All
very
benefits.
happy right
Yeah.
now. Yeah, because it's
Right.
not just like going out and drinking. It's like you're spending the money on Ubers because you're
Totally.
not,
Right.
and you're going out to eat and you're drinking and you're having fun. And yes, it's all good, but like if you know how to do it in moderation, or if you have like the control of that, sure. And I'm not to
Yeah.
say that like I'm never going to touch a drink again because that's not what I'm
Right.
saying. I'm
Right.
not there today.
Right.
Dry January, it's January 23rd, I'm pretty sure. So like 23 days
Yeah.
in. But
Yep.
I was also talking to somebody yesterday who like commented on one of my pictures, and I was like, tell me about your like experience. And he like went in and I was like, well, I kind of also have no plans of like picking up a drink on February 1st. Like I kind of want to
Right.
continue this. So
Yeah.
it's a day by day process. But I feel great. and like I feel
Oh,
more productive and I have more like clarity and like I feel good mentally, physically, like emotionally, like pulling the pieces. Like I go to therapy, like I'm talking about those issues and like trying to work on all of that. So
yeah.
um, it's kind of just like, and I have really bad like hangover anxiety, and
Yeah.
it leads into days and it like ruins days. And it
It
takes
does.
me,
Sure.
even when we got back from San Antonio,
Yeah.
I was in bed for a full 24 hours. And unfortunately, I'm going to say it, I had to take a Xanax because my
Yeah. I
anxiety
mean,
was like through the roof. My social
yeah.
battery was like dead beyond dead.
Yes.
And I got
Same.
back here. My dad was like, "What is like? Are you okay?" Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
"I'm just drained, like just
Yes.
drained."
Yes.
But
It's a
dry
lot.
January is going great.
Oh, I'm so
I
glad to hear
love it.
that.
It's going to carry on. But again, there's no time limit. There's no rules. There's no nothing. I'm kind of just finishing off the month and like
Yeah.
continuing to show
See
that
how it feels.
just do it and then go from there.
Yeah. And I get that question quite a bit, can I drink alcohol? And, I'm not here, as a dietitian, people always think, oh, she's going to give me the rules, and I'm just like, look, you got to find what works best for you in your life and what you feel good with, what doesn't,
Mhm.
certainly alcohol for folks that are lifting, it can impair muscle glycogen stores. It can impair muscle protein synthesis. So if you are, you have specific training goals, alcohol may be something that takes away from some of those, results, so to speak. But what I like that you have said so many times already on your social media is just the way that it's making you feel better about yourself, you feel more
Mhm.
productive. And I don't think that, we oftentimes realize that, alcohol can be, we use as to mask, whatever it might be, anxiety around social. I know that I'm like that too. Like I'll have a drink because it helps me to relax, like, and that's something that I have to, address, because you shouldn't have to use alcohol to be able to cope with
Yeah.
emotions when you're, around other people. I'm the same, believe me,
Yeah.
I'm in the same exact way. So, you've really inspired me. I love your posts. And I was like, I'm going to do that too. Because I think I think when we all say like, oh, I'm not gonna have any alcohol for the weekend, it's like, yeah, but when you actually don't have it for a long period of time, you allow your body kind of to reset and to see how it really does impact,
Yeah.
how you feel. So I really just want to thank you for sharing, being kind of vulnerable with that, because I think folks have to hear that sometimes. And it doesn't mean that you can never have it again. Maybe some people choose to never have it again. That's fine. But find what works best for you, and maybe it's part of your life, maybe it's not, and that's okay.
And that's like first of all, you like kind of made me choke up. And I don't know if you realized it while you were talking, but it's thank you. Like it's cool to
Yeah.
post things and like, yes, you post things and you'll get the comments and like, yes, but I think to hear it, like we're face to face. So it's like nice to hear
Yes.
that when you're reading something that I've said and inspired you or inspired somebody else, it's like, it's nice to hear. So
Yeah.
thank you. I appreciate it. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's not completely eliminated. I don't know where I'm going to go with it, like I said, but
Yeah.
I think just a day by day of how I feel great. And like
Yeah.
I look at the pictures even from like January 1st and up until the first week, the second week, the third week, and like and day by day, it's like progressively just looking better and
Yeah.
feeling better. And
Yeah.
I look different. Like I don't look
Mhm.
so drained
Yeah.
and like smiling and like look like it just you show up for yourself in a different way every day.
Yeah.
And I just overall feel better. So like that's the biggest benefit and the biggest takeaway from that.
Oh, I love that. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you for sharing all that. And I think,
Of
like I said, I
course.
think it's inspiring for others to see that for sure. And let's talk a little bit more specifically then about your nutrition for like, for your workouts. Would you mind sharing? Because I've seen a lot of your posts on, the things that you eat. And I love, I love all your cooking demos and like, sharing what you actually eat. Cause I think that's
Yeah.
helpful for others, because sometimes people are like, God, I don't know what to have, and I find it
Mhm.
very helpful when I see other people just, oh, this is really easy. Let's do some ground turkey. Let's do some veggies. Let's do some, whatever. And you're getting that protein in, fiber, whatever. But tell us a little bit about, how have you kind of changed your nutrition to fuel whatever goals you might have? Like, how has your mindset changed around nutrition since you had your surgery?
Oof. Well, yeah. So coming out of surgery, it's all soft foods, it's proteins, it's
Right.
very, very low carb, almost like no carb.
Right.
And you're really watching like the Greek yogurt, the chicken, the beef, and it's like all
Yeah.
ground and all of that, which is great. So like that's kind of
Right.
how like I've set myself up to where I am today is learning
Hmm.
to eat those foods and learning to like be creative with them.
Sure.
It's very hard to be creative, especially like when you're watching the sauce content and how much you're putting
Right.
into that and all of that. So it does become difficult there. But up until starting to like bodybuild and really get myself into the gym, that's really what my diet was like very low carb, and it helped me take the weight off, and it helped me maintain it. It helped me also really learn.
Sure.
And then I had a coach for the show, and he was like, let's track for a week. Let's see where you're at. And then we'll go from there. And I was like, all right, cool. I was like, but please keep in mind, like, I had surgery for a reason. I'm not
Right.
pushing restriction. Like, I'm not doing
Right.
this. Like, I will eat 8 times a day if I have to. But
Right.
once I hit that wall, I'm stopping. And by the end of the
Yes.
night, I'm not pushed. Like, I'm not eating at 12 o'clock at night to sustain like this. This is not the lifestyle like I want to live. I'm going to do what works for me.
Sure.
So then it became fun because I reintroduced like bagels and rice and English muffins and these foods that I looked as bad and like, no, you can't touch it ever again. And now I'm at a point where like I have bagels in my, like I get the Trader Joe's bagels and they're in my cabinet, and like I don't impede, like I wake up and if I want a bagel, I'll have the bagel, but like it's tracked. And I know for the rest of the day, it's like, all right, maybe you have to go like later on jasmine rice or can't have as many tortilla wraps throughout the day. So I do have a carb goal, and it's maybe a little bit different than what everybody else would look or think it would be. But again, I have different goals, and I work out different, and I do different things. So my body requires a different content of nutrient, a different like aspect of carbs and proteins and fats and all of that. So, but even with the guy that I'm working with now, it's the same thing. I'm not pushing on the restriction. And the one thing too is like, and this is something that, and it's funny, like in therapy, she would say like, all right, now you're not drinking. So like, you might pick up another kind of like addiction. And now it's become like, and it's not an addiction, but it's something like I'm very cautious of is like the sugar.
Sure.
And even my coach is like, well, have a Pop-Tart or like have like any kind of cereal. And I'm like, but these are things like in my past and that have like kind of kept up with me that like I have to be careful of. Like I just can't eat a Pop-Tart because that triggers something in my head. And I'm like, all right, like, let me have it tomorrow. And then it becomes a habit, and it's like a habit that's very difficult to break. So these are things that I'm just super cautious of, but also not restrictive of either. So I think that has really helped me throughout my journey and really keep me on track of where I'm going. And I hate to say this, but like the success that I've had over these years and being a successful journey of a person, I guess. I don't know how I was trying to say that, but just being a successful journey.
Yeah. And I think what I'm hearing you say is that, you're mindful. So first of all, you're balancing your plate. You're not, there aren't foods that are off limits in terms of like, you're not eating carbohydrates. And I always bring this up on podcasts because of course, for active bariatric individuals, as you increase your intensity or whatever your goal might be, whether it's lifting, whether it's endurance training, carbohydrates play a really important role in fueling our muscles and being able to continue to sustain a higher level of energy output. What I hear you saying is that you have to find the right amount of carbs and the types of carbohydrate foods that feel good to you, that you feel well with in terms of like, they don't bother you. They don't, they don't make you feel like something triggering or, you know what I mean? Where you kind of, okay, now I feel like I'm going down a different path. But I like to encourage it because I think everyone has to find what works best for them. And the amount of carbohydrate for you is going to be different for another guy or another woman. I mean, it's so individualized. And when I always talk about having a coach, I think it's so important to work with someone that can help with that, especially if you don't know, and you have specific goals, because the nutrition piece is so important to really rounding out whatever that goal might be for you after bariatric surgery and maybe it's recomposition or, you know what I mean? It's an important aspect. And I appreciate you sharing that you incorporate carbohydrates, first of all.
It's huge. It is huge. Like, and even before I started working with my first coach, like I would go for sushi. Because it's just something that I enjoyed. And I would pick rice off, not because like I'm trying to eliminate the carbs, but I knew that it was important for me because when you're only able to eat 4 ounces of food in total, in the very beginning or 3, your priority is to get that protein in. And for me, eating spicy tuna was like, I liked it. It was a sushi roll that I liked, but I would pick off some of the rice because it was important for me to eat more of the tuna than the rice, but I was still satisfying the cravings of like having the rice or just eating the sushi roll. Like I wasn't in aspects of my life, yes, probably went crazy or I go crazy, but like, it's just balance and it's just really
Yeah.
learning. And that's kind of like, even with the clients that I work with now, it's like, enjoy the holidays, like go do your
Yeah.
thing, like have the drink, have the cake, have the cookie, but like the next day, like this is a holiday, like it's one day.
Right.
It's I'm sorry, it's either Thanksgiving, it's whatever you celebrate. Um,
Right.
and it's like you can enjoy these things, but when the holidays are over, we're getting back to it. And that's how I
Yeah.
lived my life. So that's kind of like what I teach and preach to other
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Because I don't
Right.
restrict myself. I don't think it's not sustainable. Like
Right.
it just doesn't
Right.
work.
No. Right. No, and I couldn't agree with you more on that because I know it's hard over the holidays because yeah, there's things that we enjoy with family and it's a special time. There's special foods, there's special traditions, culture,
Mhm.
all those things play a role in this time. And I totally agree with you because I say the same thing. You know, I know everyone's always like, oh, you probably think I shouldn't eat. I'm like, please don't ever say that because I'm never gonna say you should never have, apple pie. I mean, that's ridiculous. This is life. Like the point of having the surgery is to learn how to utilize the tool, but while still enjoying life and
Mhm.
working towards whatever those goals are. And you can still incorporate those things, and just like you said, get back to it the next day, which I really appreciate that balance. And so what do you think are like your biggest nutrition lessons that you've learned over this time period?
Over the last 5 years, let's say,
Yeah.
uh, that carbs are not the enemy. They aren't.
Yeah.
And really learning clean protein because people like it's just. I think it's a numbers game. It's calories in, calories out. If you're
Yeah.
mindful of what you're eating, you can adjust later. Like I said, I'll have a bagel in the morning, but I'll know to like cut back later. Or
Yeah.
if I haven't had enough carbs throughout the morning period, then at night, like I could have a tortilla wrap with jasmine rice and like ground turkey. That's turkey meat. Like, and that's
Sure.
fine because it's reaching the goal of what I want.
Right.
Or if some days work gets a little hectic, um, and then by the end of the day, I realize like I haven't really had enough and maybe a Pop Tart will be sufficient and enough for that day, and it's good, or a
Right.
Rice Krispie treat, or those
Right.
types of things. So yes, I post like, and I probably should be like better about posting the other things that I eat, but I think it's important to showcase like the protein and all of that, and like how you can
Absolutely.
incorporate and make it look good, and it doesn't have to be like plain ground turkey and like
Right.
a vegetable
Broccoli
on
and
the
rice.
side and tastes like, and you're like force feeding yourself or holding your nose to like not make it taste bad. But that's kind of why I
Right.
do that. But
Yeah.
um, because then there's people out there who are like, oh, like how many cookies can you have, or how many of this can you have, or why are you eating
Yes.
that, or how can you do this, or how can you do that? And it's kind of like I don't want to explain myself. Like I'm not going to
Right.
sit here and tell you why I do what I do. I do it
Right.
because it works for me. This is what I've learned over the years, and like there are things that
Yeah.
work for you, and if you become accountable to that as well, like it can work for you. So I feel like
Absolutely.
that's just super important. To
Yeah.
it's getting the whole foods in. And the whole foods are
Yeah.
the most important part. It's so easy to eat, like, and it's kind of sad that like it's very easy to pick up a protein bar or a protein cookie and
Right.
people might think that this is like, oh, I'm getting my protein in, and it's like, no, like
Yeah. Yeah.
no, like there you like it's so important for whole foods and just making sure that you're eating the proper food. And I think that's the biggest takeaway for me, or the biggest lesson is like learning to eat whole foods,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
properly fueling yourself for the goal that I'm personally looking to accomplish.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. And yeah, I know there's lots of different places out there with different recommendations on, shakes and bars and implementation of that. But again, I think when we're trying to learn how to or relearn how to eat for life, you want to be able to go out and enjoy real food with friends and family and things like that. And that incorporates, we're not buying a protein bar at the restaurant, right? We're eating chicken or steak or what I'm saying? Like we got to learn how to eat
Yeah.
real food and find what you tolerate well. And it doesn't mean that there's not a time and a place for those. But I'm of the
And
mindset of
that's
like, yeah, of just like fitting them in if you have to, but priority number one should be real food. I agree with
Well,
you
that's
100%.
I wanted to go back on that too. Like, and I'm
Yeah,
happy that you said that. And there is a time and a place to have a protein bar.
100%.
If you're not hitting a specific goal, or you need
Right.
something, or it just works. Like I eat them too.
Yeah,
It's easy, it's quick. Like after the gym, if you need it or whatever it is. Like if you don't have
totally.
enough time, you're trying to, whatever the case may be, is. But like a lifestyle of protein bars or protein cookies or those things
Yeah,
just isn't, and that's just me being straight up. Like, I wish that more people, like, I want to hear that, because I think it's super important to not rely on like that to live, and step into
sure.
whole foods, and that foods are okay and that carbs are okay as well.
Yeah. And I think it comes down to convenience and
That too.
there's always kind of like, oh, I don't have time, or I don't like to cook. And it's like, well, part of this lifestyle though is about investing in yourself, and that's
Hmm.
going to take some work. And some of that work means meal prepping and actually putting in the time to, try some new foods and expand your intake, expand your diet and the things that you might want to try. You know what I mean? And it
Hmm.
doesn't mean that you have to eat 7 different colors of fruits and vegetables every single day. Of course, yes, I would love that. But you know what I mean? It just means,
Right.
hey, keep an open mind. Let's try it. Let's see if we can make some, one sheet pan meals that have protein and veggies that are so easy. And maybe you didn't know that before, but now instead of having the Built Bar at nighttime for dinner, we actually make some chicken and some vegetables. And yes, it takes 10 minutes. It's okay. And putting in some of
Yes.
that commitment to yourself. Yeah.
Like, do I like meal prepping?
No.
Absolutely not. Like, do I like sitting there
Same.
chopping up onions and vegetables and cooking and this and that? No, but during the week when I'm coming home from the gym and I have like 10 minutes to just like
Yep.
throw together what I have prepared, it makes it super easy. And there's no excuse, because like from my house to the gym, I could stop off at, there's a place, I don't think it's on the West Coast, but like it's a place called Wawa. There's like
Okay.
a McDonald's. There's all of these food places, and it's so easy to
Right.
stop, or even just stop at like for a bar. Like, I've done that before. Like, I've had
Right.
to stop off at the grocery store and my stomach's eating at itself, and like I pick it up, and then like, but I go home and also like eat proper food to like eat. But
Absolutely.
I don't like meal prepping. I don't like
Yeah.
cleaning up. I don't like
Yeah.
it, but I know that in the long term it's going to help me, and it helps me throughout my week.
Yeah.
And also, like, now it helps, like, so I live at home, and I'm like, it helps my dad. So
Yeah.
he's also now like watching himself or my sister,
That's
and
awesome.
it
Yeah.
helps now, like, with everybody else. So it's not just me
Absolutely.
who's benefiting, it's like everybody else. So
Yeah,
um,
for sure. No, I love to hear that. And let me ask you this. So do you have any advice? Like, so someone, wants to start lifting more, or, they just, they don't really know where to start with lifting or nutrition or how to start making changes. Or the biggest question I get is, how do I eat to fuel this type of movement? Do you have any advice for someone kind of starting out or on this beginning part of their journey?
hire a coach, for real, would be like the best thing. And if
Yeah.
financially, and if that's not something that works, or if it's not something that's financially doable,
Yeah.
um, there's a lot of help on like the internet. There's a lot of
Yep.
workouts on the internet. You can look up
Sure.
like a push pull leg split. It doesn't have to be 6 days a week. It could be 3 days a week. It doesn't have
Yep.
to be anything crazy. Um, it doesn't have to be 10 workouts. Like, 6 is sufficient. It's just
Right.
hitting the muscle group, staying consistent, making sure that you're actually lifting the right amount of weight and not just throwing it around. As far as nutrition, it's difficult, because everybody requires something completely different. Focus on the protein, especially after bariatric surgery, because obviously we
Yeah.
know that like that's such a restriction as
Yeah.
you continue to get out, implementing carbs, and it's kind of just figuring that out. But the other issue that you kind of run into too is like, unfortunately, some people undereat, which is just as bad as
Yeah.
overeating.
Right.
And that's just holding on to fat, and it's not helping people see the results that they want. And everybody thinks that they need to like run to the, and not everybody, I'm sorry, there's a few select of people who think that they need to like run on the treadmill or be on the elliptical or be on the treadmill for 45 minutes to an hour, and that's all they're going to do. And it's like, no. And this is something that I actually was told to do,
Yeah.
because I have an Apple Watch. I don't use it. I don't like, it's just not, but I now started to put it on. And the guy that I work with, my coach, basically said to me, he's like, go on the treadmill, turn your Apple Watch on, do the cardio that I told you to do, watch how many calories you burn. And then he's like, on the day that you're lifting, do the same thing. Put strength training on,
Mhm.
work out. Look at the calorie difference and how many more calories you're burning through strength training than
Mhm.
you're burning through cardio. And
Mhm.
that's kind of like changed my mindset as well. And this is something that was said to
Yeah.
me like last week. That's not something
Yeah.
that like I was doing for a long time. So
Yeah.
um, that's really important, is you don't need to be
Yeah.
like killing yourself on the treadmill or like running
Right.
and sprinting, because to be honest, like I did that when I was in high school or like my early years of college, and it didn't stick. I went for a week. I signed up to a
Right.
gym for a year, and I told my parents, this is when I was maybe like 17 years old, 16, because I don't even think I was driving to the gym at this point. And I was like, yes, I'm committed. Like, I'm going to do it. Like, I'm going to sign up for the year. And I would go for like a week. And then that was
Yeah.
it, because who wants to go back to like
It's miserable.
sweating and like doing these like fast paced things on the elliptical and these unrealistic things? So
Right.
that's my advice.
Yeah, I got to find something that you enjoy that's going to be sustainable that, and I think like you've said, you have a new coach, changing things up and trying different things I think is helpful too, because that kind of helps with motivation and, just seeing new goals and seeing the results with a different type of program. And I couldn't agree with you more about getting a coach, because especially with training in the gym, is if you don't have an experience, save yourself the time and also keep yourself safe and be efficient in the workouts by working with someone who knows what the hell they're doing and can
That too.
help you, to guide your program over time to make changes so that you can
Right.
continue to see results. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
And that's the thing.
And
And you
go
kind
ahead.
of really quick, you touched on this too. It's like, find something you
Yeah.
enjoy. And it doesn't have
Yeah.
to be like at the gym, weightlifting and like bodybuilding. Like, it could be just a cycle class, or it could be a functional
Totally.
fitness class, or it could be Pilates or dancing or like
Yeah.
Zoom, like whatever you want it to be, let
Yeah.
it be that.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be. And this is part of like, I'm going to jump onto this quickly and get off of it, and we can go to the next. But like, this is part of the reason like I'm competing in these shows or showing my progress. I guess it's great for people who understand, but I don't want to set the standard of like, this is what you have to do in order to get to here, or this is how you have to live after bariatric surgery, because
Oh,
it's not.
right.
Find what works for you. And even in weight loss, it's far greater than bariatric surgery. It's like any kind of weight loss. Find what works for you, be
Yeah.
consistent, and enjoy it. Because I think that's the
Absolutely.
biggest takeaway.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. So I wanted to ask you, you're the founder and the head coach of the Next Level Fit. Can you tell us a little bit about,
Yes.
like, is that a gym? Tell us about it.
No, it's not. Maybe one day it will be a gym, but no,
Okay, well,
it's
tell
not a
me about.
gym right
Yeah.
now.
Okay.
So Next Level Fit is, so when I first started my journey, I was losing weight. I was sharing it online. Um, and people just like always ask me like, what are you doing? What's going on? Like,
Yeah.
how are you getting to this point? How are you getting to that point? What are you eating? Um, and I've worked in sales for my entire life. So I was like, I love fitness. I like working. I actually really love working with people.
Yeah.
Um, so there was a girl from high school when I was living in LA, and I saw her and she was doing coaching. And I was like, I would love to do that. That would be like amazing. That would
Yeah.
be the dream.
Sure.
So came back and kind of learned how to start the business, and basically it is turned into Next Level Fit.
Yeah.
So it's just like a transformation program, mind, body, soul. A lot of it's the accountability, which is huge, which everybody is like
Totally.
really benefiting from. Yeah, I could give you the workouts. Yeah, we could work on your macros. We could work on goals. We could do step goals. But like at the end of the day, it's the
Yeah.
support, and it's having the
100%.
support and having somebody to back to. Um, so it's something I'm really proud of.
Oh,
Something
that's
I've really
awesome.
worked hard to do. Even just like showing up, and far greater than like the aspect of that, it's just like showing up at the gym and just showing that it's possible. And like, even with the clients that I work with, it's like, let's find like what works for you. Because
Absolutely.
what works for me is not going to work for you. We have different goals. There's different things in mind. Uh, so basically just helping men and women around the United States, as for right now,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
virtual, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Um, Seeing real results, they're living results, and they're learning to live. And just as much as
Yeah.
I'm learning to live, it's like it's it's cool to create a community and just build those relationships with people and just continue to help them grow, me grow, work out. We're staying consistent. We comment on each other's things, and they're commenting back, and they're asking for advice, or they're sending videos, or um, making big life transitions. And it gives me the chills, like being able to be on
Yeah.
people's journeys with them and like watching them transform. And like, I have a client right now, and I won't disclose his name, but um, we've worked together for 2 years, almost 2 years, and he's lost a significant amount of weight. And at first he was like, I'm not taking pictures. There's no way I'm taking pictures. These pictures are up on Instagram. He's lost 200 pounds,
Oh
so
my gosh.
his biggest insecurity has now become like his biggest trophy.
Sure.
And now we're at the point of like skin. And I'm like,
Yeah.
post a video, share these things, like, because you're right now, like what you're dealing with right now in this moment of like your skin is a starting point. And this is kind of what I try to always remember for myself. And I'm literally getting chills. Like, it's the starting point. So like now he's inspiring other people, like working through his journey, and he's getting the comments of like, you're an inspiration, you're a motivation. And it's like, it feels good. It feels great. But it's like,
Yeah.
and I've gotten these, and it's kind of like, are we talking about the same, talking about me? Are we
Right.
talking about
Right.
the same person? Like, but it's cool to like be on this journey, and like and watching people's confidence grow. And
Yeah.
that's what it is. And like, even one of the girls I'm working with messaged me a picture, and she was like, I felt amazing in this dress.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what
That's
more can
awesome.
you ask? Like, it's not
Yeah.
like, oh, I haven't seen a definition in my ab, or like my biceps aren't big enough. I'm like, yeah, obviously those are things like we're working on.
Right.
But when you hear that somebody's like living life, going out and having a glass of wine, and like feels really like
Yeah.
feels confident, I'm going to use that
Yeah.
word,
Yeah.
in what she or he is wearing, like that's it.
Yeah.
That's
That
like,
is it.
but yes,
Yeah.
that's a sum up of Next Level Fit and my
Oh, I
experience
love it.
working with people, and it's great, and I love it. And the goal is just to continue to grow. Maybe one
Yeah.
day open up a gym.
There you go.
I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know where the
Yeah.
next venture is, but that's where we're at today.
Aw. Well, I love it. I could just see in your face, I can tell in your voice how proud you are. And you're changing people's lives, and that's awesome. And when you look back at your own journey and now you're able to help others, I mean, that's awesome. So
Yeah,
congratulations. That's really cool.
thank
And I
you.
appreciate you sharing that. Yeah. And where can people kind of follow you and learn more about your business, or just be able to learn more about you?
So Instagram is Rob Motivation. TikTok is Rob Spinella. Um, and I just started, I don't know where this is heading, but YouTube. I'm not,
Ooh.
well, for right now, it's just like working out, and it's like the tutorial aspect of working out. I don't
Sure.
know how I feel about like talking to a camera yet, or I don't know how I feel about certain things like that, but um, we're getting there. We're
Yeah.
doing the things that make us uncomfortable, like showing up to these events, or talking to you, like, and not talking to you
Yep.
because I very much trust, like I told you before, I trust everything that you're doing. But for
Yeah.
me, I get super nervous. So like
Yeah.
these things kind of
Right.
like make me nervous. So, but I think I'm getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. So for that, YouTube might be the next step, or just going live on Instagram. And that's another thing that I've been doing that's been really cool. So Des and I have been going live every Wednesday. We kind of called
Yes.
it Unhinged Accountability, or Unhinged Live, and which is turning into something else. By the time this comes out, I don't know when you're releasing this, but we're doing, it's called Unhinged Accountability. So we're
Okay.
kind of doing a challenge where we're just inviting people to come be a part of the challenge, and picking up on the habits and doing the things that we've learned and has gotten us to the success of where we're at. So we're super, super excited about that. Um, but yeah,
That's awesome. And
that's that.
what time do you guys air on Instagram? What time do you go live?
So right now it's Wednesday at 7 Eastern, and
Okay.
then 4 Pacific.
Yeah, 4 Pacific. Yeah, perfect.
Yes,
Awesome. Okay, so definitely you guys go check that out.
please.
And yeah, and so thank you so much. I'm so glad we finally got a chance to talk. I appreciate your time today.
Of course. Thank you so much. And I thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my voice and allow others to just listen to that. And I hope that somebody was able to take something away from today, and it was beneficial, and it could change their journeys in a positive way,
Absolutely.
or their
Yeah. No,
mindset, which is the biggest part.
totally. That's so true. No, I definitely think it did. And that's why I love having folks, and especially, having you on, Rob. I know I've been following you for a long time. So I just appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll get to see each other at some event here in this coming year in 2024. I'll be back at the retreat, and you never know. We might cross paths somewhere. But I
Hopefully sooner
appreciate you.
than that, of course.
Yeah, I know.
Absolutely.
Next November. Yeah, totally. Well, you guys, thanks so much for watching. You can always, or listening, I should say, you can always watch the full episode of this podcast on my YouTube channel, which which Rob, side note, I also was a little nervous about doing too. I was like, I can't believe I'm doing a video and an audio podcast, but we're doing the things. But YouTube channel, Active Bariatric Nutrition channel. So make sure to subscribe to it. Give it a like. You can also follow me on my social media, which is on Instagram at Active Bariatric. And then also on Facebook, I have a community, the Active Bariatric Nutrition Community. And if you wouldn't mind just sharing this podcast with one person who you think would find this helpful, I would so greatly appreciate that. And then lastly, you can learn more about my one-to-one bariatric nutrition coaching services on my website, which is activebariatricnutrition.com. Schedule a free discovery call so that we can learn more about each other. So guess what? We'll do this again next week. Thanks so much again, Rob. Have a good day, everybody.